Welcome to another edition of the podcast known as Blending the Family. I am your host, Maloney, coming to you from wonderful, I think it's wonderful. It's not a bad area, not a bad place in the Northwest. I am in Tacoma, Washington, and we'll talk about that in a mere moment. Hey, the new book, My Dad's Advice at 5:04 a.m., is still in pre-sale. I am still working on the final edits, and you can go to mydadsadvicebook.com, mydadsadvicebook.com, and pick up your pre-sale book. So excited about it. It's a process. It's a process. I'm not a fan of editing because I have a great editor named Dallas with self-publishing 30 days, and I was like really nervous because she sent me back the edits. I'm like, I suck, I'm horrible. She goes, no, everything looks really good. We're just here to kind of spruce it up, fix some of the grammar, but she said overall she was very much enjoying it, so that was a compliment that I was not really expecting. So I was very happy to get those notes back. So getting close to the final edits. My goal is this coming weekend to just hunker down and get a lot of it done. I don't know about you, but are you one of those now, soon to be, or potentially empty nesters? We are officially empty nesters. The boy, Connor, is up in Michigan. Have not heard from him since Tuesday of this week, and they left Colorado and were driving from Colorado up to Michigan, and they were making a stop to see family, my former spouse's family up in the land of cheese. And I only heard back from Connor because he was designing his new goalie pads. So, important stuff like that. I mean, not talking politics, not talking, world issues. No, we need to know what color to design the new goalie pad. So I'm excited. I'm also extremely nervous again because I have not heard from him. We saw him this last Saturday. He had back-to-back adult summer league, aka beer league hockey game. So we got to see him before he left. A lot of noisy motorcycles I noticed in this area, but anyway, I digress. So we saw him on Saturday, and I thought I was going to break down. I thought I was just going to be a crying mess, but no. One thing I did do, I did write him, well, let me rephrase it. I didn't write it. I typed it out because I have horrible handwriting, but I typed out a little letter for him that I hope he read. And yeah, I'm nervous. I'm excited again, but I'm nervous at the same time of, 18 years on the planet, and now the boy's gone. He's off, onto new adventures for him, onto new sights and sounds of Michigan, and opportunities and meeting new people. And the funny thing was I had asked him, hey, have you heard from your roommate yet? And he had not. He had received a message saying, hey, here's your roommate, here's their information, and he reached out to his roommate and nothing. So I hope they get along. I mean, even if they don't, it's not like they have to spend 24 hours a day 7 days a week together. So even though the campus is small, but it's, I'm a little jealous. I wish I had known about that school beforehand. But, hey, speaking of hockey, I'm going to say something very controversial. Okay? Now, I know I have listeners in Australia, New Zealand, parts of Europe. So this might not really pertain to you unless you're a hockey fan. But the Phoenix Coyotes were told that their lease from where they play their games, they're not going to have them renew the lease. They do a year-to-year lease apparently, and the people that own the arena said, we can make more money with other events other than you. So here's where I get a little bit controversial. And this won't take long, but I feel that the Phoenix Coyotes have run their course, that it's time to leave Arizona. Leave Arizona, go to Canada. Okay, you have options in Quebec City, in Hamilton. I want to say go to Canada. Okay? You Phoenix Coyote fans, I'm sorry, it just didn't work. Okay? You're not filling that stadium, and you don't have a big enough fan base. Go to Quebec City. They just apparently remodeled where the Ramparts play. Go to Quebec City. That's my choice for them. Okay. Anyway. So I mentioned I'm here in Tacoma, Washington. The weather's been beautiful. I mean, beautiful. Prior to this, I went 3 weeks in a row. I was in Tucson, Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, and then Las Vegas, Nevada. Extremely hot weather. We're talking one day it was 115. That is just insane. And I'm happy to be here again in the Northwest. It's beautiful. You walk out of the hotel in the morning, and it's a little dreary. It's a little chilly. We had one morning was a little light rain, but I loved it, And then by the afternoon, the sun pops out, and it's just gorgeous. So I love the Northwest when the weather is like nice, not raining 24/7. I've been in Oregon. I've been to the Portland area. I'm trying to think where else I've been in Oregon. Northern California. I love that. I love Northern California. I love this part of the country. So if you're ever in Tacoma, Washington, I need to give a plug, a shout out to this restaurant that we've been going to 3 days in a row, and I highly recommend. I didn't order one because I'm been very religious when it comes to my eating these days and working out. But go to the Homestead Restaurant in Tacoma, Homestead Restaurant, and order yourself a wagon wheel. Okay. 3 of my colleagues have ordered this wagon wheel, which is essentially just breakfast. Just this massive breakfast of French toast, hash browns, cheese, eggs. I mean, if I wasn't in this healthy frame of mind, I might attempt it. But out of 3 colleagues, only 1 has been able to finish the wagon wheel. So, Tacoma, Washington, Homestead Restaurant. We actually had the owner come to our table because he noticed we've been there 3 days in a row, and what a great family atmosphere. What a great, every waitress we've had, just great attitude. I mean, I love customer service, and I love when people are just so fun. I mean, our waitress was giving me crap today because she kept saying I was the troublemaker. I'm the troublemaker. I said, no, I'm the quiet one. She goes, yeah, that's usually the troublemaker. I'm sitting there going, yeah, you're probably right. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to going back home, this weekend, and so there we go, to work on the book. And once again, mydadsadvicebook.com, mydadsadvicebook.com is how you can get your hands on the book. My Dad's Advice at 5:04 a.m. is the name of the book, and so I'm super excited. Sorry it's taken so long, but again, the editing process is just not my cup of tea. All right, let's get to why we are here, and that is Dereck Reynolds. He is the creator of Hug-A-Dad, is on this episode, and this is actually episode 212. 212 episodes. I am so blessed that you listen to these episodes, you download them. Please leave rating and reviews. I keep forgetting to mention that, but please leave rating and reviews. Just to mention, this is what I want to do in life. This is my work. I want to do this every day of the week. Be able to share great people such as Dereck and Dereck's organization, again, Hug-A-Dad. At the time of the recording, he was running for a local office, council person, I believe. And I hate to be a spoiler, but unfortunately, Dereck did not win. But during this podcast, we talked about, if he is elected, what would he do to help his constituents? And so he talks about a lot of great ideas to help families, to help people go back to work, and things of that nature. So, again, Dereck Reynolds, Hug-A-Dad. We talk about his story, about how early on in this conversation, we talk about how he didn't have parental rights, being able to see his son. And so I mentioned to him, well, he went through family court, and we had one of the past guests, Carl T. Roberts, who went through 10 years. 10 years in family court. That's just crazy. That's stupid. That's just really stupid of the family court system. So there you go. Dereck Reynolds, creator of Hug-A-Dad. Just a delightful conversation. You can find him on the social media at Hug-A-Dad. You can also find him on LinkedIn. A lot of the guests you can find on LinkedIn. I'm such a huge LinkedIn person. And again, Dereck Reynolds. And in the show notes will be all of his. He sent me some great pictures of he and his son. So check out the show notes for the links. Check out the show notes for information about my coaching and my other books. And there you go. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this portion of the me just rambling, and so we'll just end it. As Terry Crews would say, your success is my success. Well, Dereck, first of all, thank you for coming on the podcast, Blending the Family. I am so excited to have you on. I see you doing some great things out there. I also love the fact that both of us are on LinkedIn, and you will comment on things and just really open up my eyes to some of the where you're coming from. So, Dereck, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
So, I think I discovered you. Well, I mean, not like I discovered you're a music singer or anything like that, but if you want to break out in song anytime, that's okay. But let's talk about your, I'm going to say your mission right now is the Hug-A-Dad community. What is Hug-A-Dad, and where did this Hug-A-Dad start?
Well, Hug-A-Dad, I'll begin with where it started. It started from me and my son's mother. We broke up while she was pregnant, and when my son was born, I wasn't I wasn't allowed any access to him. And eventually, I finally started getting some, but it was under her thumb. It was, all under her control and what she wanted it to be. So we eventually had to go to court. And once going to court, I'm thinking that when I go there, I have all my ducks in a row. I got a nice attorney. I don't have a criminal record. I'm wanting to be here with my child. I'm thinking, this is going to go pretty good, at least fairly decent. And it went really bad. And, it just kept happening over and over again. Every time I went to court, the same thing kept happening. And I'm thinking that, my case is the worst, but then I see other fathers and they got worse, even worse case than I do. I'm struggling to see my son, but at least I'm getting to see my son. A lot of fathers aren't even getting to see their children. So it's just like I just felt like, man, I don't want to be I don't just want to sit and just complain about it and just, wait till my son gets older and then tell him the truth and all that. I want to make a change for myself, but as well for others because, I want my son to grow up in a pretty decent generation. I want, our next generation to improve. So, that's why I wanted to start the Hug a Dad Foundation because, you know, um, it's time that, everybody, I was going to say it's time that somebody speak up, but there's a lot of organizations that, deal with fatherhood, even you as well. But everyone who has ideas and want to help out the cause should put their hat in the ring and, put their ideas forward. And that's just basically what I wanted to do, just add on my 2 cents to it. So that's how it started.
You know, one of the guests that have been on this podcast, Carl T. Roberts, he went through 10 years of family court.
Yeah,
Um, and as you already know, Dereck, it's insane. It's a racket. It's not always fair to you know. Yeah, I'll say it's not fair to the men. It's not fair to the dads because it's an old mentality that the family court system feels that moms know best because they had the baby, which is not always the case.
no, not at all, not at all. And it's just like you said, it's a racket, man. It's brutal. You go in there and you coming in there for your child. You want to see your child. You want to fight for your child, and then you got somebody who don't even know your child telling you that they know what's in the best interest of your child better than you do, and that's just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. So what has happened going through the court process? Have you been able to get visitation?
Oh yeah, yeah. I get to see my son every weekend. On 1 week, do like a on week off week type of thing. On 1 week is 3 days, and on the off week is 2 days. And what I've been trying to do is I would rather it be a little more balanced with the 4 and 3 or week on week. And in a perfect world, we wouldn't even have to go through family court. I feel like I should just be able to, just like her brother can come and say, "Hey, I want to take him to a basketball game. I want to take him to, you know, the store or something like that." People that is on her side of the family, people that's in her good on her good side, can just show up, and if they not doing nothing, yeah, she'll let them take them somewhere to the store or something. But when it comes to me, I'm his father. I got to stick to the strict time limit that I have with him. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't even be allowed to have him by myself. I would still be doing little supervised visits, and they weren't court appointed. It was just something that I had set up with her and her family, just so I can get to see him and spend time with him.
Does it come down to Dereck that it's because you two aren't married?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I see a lot of married men get screwed too. So
That's true. That is true.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, maybe for certain judges, they look at the men differently if you're not married. But I don't know. I see married men get hammered badly. And
Yeah. Well, because
oh, go ahead.
the reason why I asked Eric is because I know of other family members who have kids with their significant other, but they're not married. And my concern is what you're going through, Dereck, and that is having to go to court to get visitation of your son. And it's 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 like you said though, even even we married men have gotten our day in family court. And I mean, just real quickly, I'm truly blessed that when I end up in family court, the judge saw that the bottom line. I don't want to say I won. I mean, because what did I win? I mean,
Right.
I I I stopped my former wife of moving out of state with our son. So I guess that's a major win, but there's a huge loss. I mean, it's what you are already experiencing. You are losing time, you're losing finances, you're losing the ability to, spend quality time with our kids. And so that's why when I have, uh, dads on this podcast sharing their story, my hopes and dreams is that with your story, with again with Carl Roberts' story about family court, there has to be some somebody has to take a hand into it and say, all right, enough's
En-
enough, this
Enough,
racket
enough.
has got to stop.
Yeah. And one thing I just want to say to you, I appreciate from you, I appreciate the fact that you don't look at it as a win because a lot of times, like in our culture nowadays, it's like the proud single mother. It's like you're strong. It's like a achievement to have been a strong single mother, raise your kids by yourself, and it's like you get all these accolades, which in if in the in the instance where you have to raise your children by yourself, you do deserve a lot of credit because that is an incredibly hard feature to accomplish. But to be proud about it, to say like, "Oh yeah, this is what I do. I'm strong," you know, that's detrimental to fatherhood, to the family process. So when you say that you don't feel like you won anything, I mean, you got something that you wanted to get accomplished, but it's not necessarily a win because you're looking at all the other losses. I think that more people should look at it like that
Well, thank you, Dereck. Yeah, I
because it is a loss.
it is a loss. I mean, um, the biggest loss was, I mean, I guess the financial piece. I mean, I maxed out a credit card. I had to borrow money, to pay the legal fees, and that money could have been used on my son.
Exactly.
And again, and I'm grateful that you recognize that. I didn't even think of it that way. I'm just coming from, I can, I might not have walked in your shoes, Dereck, but I've walked alongside you in the
Yeah.
family court, and it isn't a win. It's yeah. I mean, and I just want to touch on, I was raised by a single mom,
I was
and
too.
so she worked, two jobs to support us, went to night school, and you know, and I have to agree with you, Dereck, because she never, stood on the mountaintop and said, "Look at me." She did what she had to do, and so I am truly blessed to have had a mom that just had so much work ethic and integrity. Um,
Strength.
yes, definitely strength. I mean, she kicked my butt on and some tennis courts sometimes. So I just want to say, yeah. But at the same time, I want to say I am also blessed that I do have a dad that I am connected with. I mean, it took us a long time to build that relationship, and so I'm truly grateful that I do have that ability to be able to, have both parents, and co-parenting wasn't their their skill set, but at the same time, I I am happy that, you know, as far as I know, nobody ended up in court. Um, so I,
Now, I think it speaks volumes that even you as a grown man with your own family, you are excited that you have both parents in your life. So imagine how a 7-year-old or 8-year-old feels. I mean, they
and
got to be excited to be able to see their dad and their mom. I mean, they want to see both parents. And when we, because this just happened to me recently, it's starting where he's coming over repeating things that he heard, and there's negative things about me. So
mhm.
it's like now we introducing to him that we have issues with each other,
Yeah,
which we
and
shouldn't have issues with each other.
exactly. Kids should not be the pawn. Kids should not be put in the middle. That's adult speak, not not kid speak. So let the kids be kids.
The one thing I feel like that I tell her and that I would tell to any co-parents is that there's nobody that you should be um more friendly with than the person who you share a child with, because you two both have you both share a common interest.
Hmm.
You want this child to be healthy and successful. As a parent, that's your highest priority. So you two both share the same highest priority, and your hierarchy of needs, or whatever you want to call it. Y'all should be able to work in sync at least to accomplish this goal.
And you're 100% right. And I will say I am guilty as charged. I will admit I never put my son in the middle, but one of the things that I know I was guilty of was being a really bad ex-husband. And I really wish you and I had met years ago and could have had this conversation, because you're right, Dereck. I mean, the bottom line is it comes down to co-parenting, and co-parenting is working together as co-parents to support your children so they become successful and they can grow up in a happy home, be it you know two homes. So you nailed it on the head right there, Dereck, that you're right. We former spouses should be, you know on this somewhat on the same page with our former spouse, and working together as a team, not working against each other.
Yeah, y'all a team. You two are a team. If there's anybody that you are on the same side of, it's that person, whether y'all together or not. Whether y'all together or not, because that kid, if both of y'all have been, in the kid's life or whatever, that kid loves both of y'all, and the kid probably don't want to choose between either one. So y'all should probably, mend whatever issues you have, and it happens. I mean, we only human. Sometimes we make mistakes, but the thing about it is growing. And I think one thing that's important is if our kids can see us grow, how we grow, then they learn how to grow. They see, like if your son has seen you maybe being a bad husband, but he see, okay, you get remarried, and now you try to fix the things that you broke, and you own up to your things, and now he learned how to do it. So now maybe he don't have to go through that. Maybe when he get married, he get it right the first time, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
So that's just what I see. I just see like we should strive to do good things, especially when it comes to our children, and they'll emulate us for the most part.
So let me ask you this, Dereck. So when your son comes over to the house and he starts repeating, negative things about you, what advice can you give to other dads or parents that are in that similar situation. How have you handled those moments with your son?
Well, I struggle with it. Um,
Love the
I,
honesty.
I struggle with it. I'm not a guru. I'm not, the most, you know, calmest person in the world all the time. But what I learned how to do is just listen and just try to see different perspectives. And another thing that also helps is having a great spouse on your team. Once again, a team. And I have a great spouse, and she gave me some great advice. And that advice was that they can talk bad about you. While they talk bad about you, you create great memories. So it don't matter what they saying about you. They can talk bad about you all day, but when it come to him, he know when it come to dad, we gonna go do something fun. He gonna teach me something. We gonna go get something to eat. We're gonna lay back and enjoy your show. We're gonna go out. We're gonna have a good time together. So it don't even matter. They can talk as much as they want. And with him, what I do is when I talk to him, I tell him, that hurts my feelings when you say that. Like that hurts my feelings when you say that, I'm ugly, or when you say, and I know where it's coming from. I could tell. So it hurts. So when he say something like, um, when he came over, he was saying something about, do I do? He was saying, "You think my mommy's stupid?" And I know where he got that from. And when he's saying these things, I just say, "Yo, that hurts my feelings." And then "Oh, I'm sorry, my feelings hurt too." And then now he feels some type of way. And I just do it so that he knows, like, because he understands pain, he understands having his feelings hurt, so he don't want to hurt mine neither. So hopefully, when people say that and they talking bad about him, he'll say, like, don't say that, like, when they trying to talk to him about it. That hurts my daddy's feelings, and that's okay with me that he say that, because I want him to see me in a in a light where, because he's a gentle kid. He's a kind kid. He's not aggressive. He's not malicious like that. He understands that. So I speak to him in what he understands, and that's my take on it. To just take the high road. When they try to pass on bad notes to your kid, take the high road. Change the subject. Say, oh, let's go play basketball or something, or forget that. Let's go do this. Or they don't know. Let's go do this. We the truth. We good. We great. That's what my old head told me. If he repeating her and she's saying you ugly, say, yeah, but you look just like me, and you ain't ugly.
That's deep right there. And that's the truth too. That, your son is, part of you. And a couple of things that came to mind was, this is why I'm so on the bandwagon, or I'm on the soapbox when it comes to stoicism, because the Stoics talk about, what you can and what you cannot control. And so if your son is coming to you saying these certain things about you, you can't control what's happening in that other house, but at the same time, you can control that moment with your son. You can control the fact that, you know, you are, shifting, like you're saying, okay,
Yeah,
we're going to move on. We're going to go shoot hoops. We're going to go. And the one things I loved, you said, I'm going to go teach you something. Let's go spend time together, quality time, so dad can teach you something. And
yeah,
then it's going, in the long run, it really is going to help your relationship with him, until one day, possibly, he'll just say, you know, to his mom or anyone else, no, that's not true. My dad is not ugly. My dad is not stupid. My dad is, you know, a great person. My dad is my best friend. My dad is. And I
My dad
think
is
that
cool.
my dad is cool. My
And
dad's
even that I feel kind of apprehensive about because I don't want him to have to engage with adults about an adult issue.
right. You're
But
right.
but I still want him to be able to have that confidence that, if somebody's talking about his dad, at least if he don't speak it to them, at least he know to himself that, well, I know my dad love me. I know if I go to my dad's house, he gonna, talk to me. He gonna sit down with me. He might show me how to do something real quick. I know what it is with him, so I'm not worried about what nobody else talking about.
Well, is this your reason, what you've gone through? Is this why um, you're running for office? Is this uh, the next step to help create maybe a better family court, or where did the idea and tell the listeners what you're running for and where, and so we can all help support you, Dereck.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm running for city council in Wichita in the sixth district, Wichita, Kansas. Um, the reason why I'm running is because I feel that there are there are things that I see that could be done, that could be said, that could be supported, that I just feel like are not. And instead of just sitting around and saying what other people should be doing and what they're not doing, I just feel like, well, if I'm going to criticize them, I might as well see if I could do it better. Instead of just sitting around talking. So I want to see if I can bring the change and bring the help that um that I feel like needs to be brought into my community and to other communities as well. I got ideas and I think that would work. I think that we need to definitely promote more fatherhood in the community because I mean, if we're talking about, well, let's solve the issues for, high school dropout. Well, 71% of high school dropouts are fatherless. If we're going to talk about, let's get to the root cause of issues, then we should look at the numbers and look at what is the real root of the issues and not just a band-aid, put a band-aid on a surface level issue. I mean, let's really see what it is. And if you just look at most of your social ills, the root cause behind it is fatherlessness. When we got young people and chemicals chemically substance um, facilities, is fatherlessness. Um, Young people in jail, fatherlessness. It's like it's not like a one fix everything the whole all the world's problems, but it's a great start. It's a great
And
start.
you're right. I mean, if you look at, you know, everything you've just talked about are backed by, I'm not a fan of statistics, but they are backed by statistics that, you
I'm not a
know,
fan of statistics neither, but you don't get legitimized unless you know them. So
exactly.
that's why I started saying them because people don't even listen to you unless you recite the statistics.
But you're right. I mean, majority of men incarcerated came from a fatherless home. Majority of your people that are in situations of criminals or drugs come from fatherless homes, and you know, I I think that, like you're saying, we need to get to the root cause, and if there's any other way of saying this other than, if you're a man and you get somebody pregnant, don't run away.
No,
Even if your intention is not to marry that person, that's fine. However, I guess I'm going to be on my soapbox for a moment, Dereck. And that is, you know, you brought life into this world. Stand up, do what you're supposed to do. And like we talked earlier, work with the young lady and become a team and work together. You know, and yeah, that's me on my soapbox.
Yeah. And so this is just one thing that I always say. Like piggybacking off of what I was just saying is that we can use band-aids. And you know how people like, all right, so a lot of times people say, the community needs jobs. So let's say we bring programs, and these programs going to bring jobs, and we're going to put people on good paying jobs. They're going to make good living wages, and they're going to be able to support themselves. But at this job, you know, who's going to teach these young men how to behave in a men's locker room? Or who's going to teach these young men how to how to have a professional conversation with another man without their voice getting too high or elevated or becoming disrespectful or becoming too emotional about the situation or not being able to put it behind them. Like for instance, I watched two grown men, since I've been doing this thing, this Huggadad thing. I've been meeting some great inspirational men, and I watched two men debate about religion. They had uh, two opposing ideas. They were on two different sides of this issue, and it got so frustrating to one of the gentlemen that he just said, "You know what? Instead of just going back and forth because I gotta go do something, I gotta go handle something. I'm gonna write down how I feel, and then I'm gonna give it to you." So think about it like this. Instead of getting mad or calling him a name or fighting or just blowing it off, he thought enough about this guy and the topic to write it down. And the other guy thought enough to read it and to listen and to, try to gain his perspective. Now, even though they never agreed, that's a much better productive way of handling the dispute more than getting into a fight or cussing somebody out or reacting violent. So just think if more young people had these types of images to see growing up, I think that we would be in a different space as a community.
So, what are some of your ideas if you get elected? What is something that you would like to put within your district?
Well, we don't have any in the city of Wichita. We don't have any supervised visits facilities, and I think that we need that. We need a supervised visit facility so that fathers can come somewhere to spend time with their children. And we want to promote that fathers not only get weekends, but weekdays so that you can help with homework or help study, or you could talk about your day at school. Because the people that the kids see every day that they come home to and they talk to their day about and things like that, those are the ones who our children trust the most because those are like the everyday people. So if you just dad and you just see them every weekend, you fit into the stereotype of, pizza boxes and, hockey games or whatever. And that's dad, that's it. But he can't be reliable. We can't rely on dad to drop us off at school early in the morning or pick us up or something like that. We need to erase that image. We need to show that not only do we want to have fun with our kids, but we want to teach. We want to teach our kids. We want to show them how to act and how to listen and how to learn and how to pay attention. We want to teach them those mannerisms. So that's one thing that I think that we need. I also believe we have a really big homeless problem in our community, in the Wichita community, especially downtown area. And we have a lot of mentally ill homeless people. And I think that that's just tragic. I think that we need an affordable facility for people to go to. And because you're homeless, because you don't have money, should not um, designate you to just be walking the streets or just sitting on a bench, obviously in need of help. So, I mean, those are just two glaring things that that I would really like to you know do. I don't want to take too much of the time, but yeah, those are two important things.
Well, I want to go back to the your first point about the facility for visitation, and you were talking about when our kids go home. I mean, I look at my situation. You know, my son, when he'd go home, it would be to his mom's house, and then we would have him back then every other weekend. So there wasn't the opportunity for me to sit and do homework with him and be there with him.
Right.
It was the every other weekend dad. um, it's a little self-deprecating, but I always say I was like the part-time parent because, again, not able to see him every day, every weekend. But something you were talking about, and that is, why, going back, it's so important that our kids have both parents involved in their lives, especially you know when we dads have our kids. We want them to learn how to respect others. We want them to also have their own ideas and be able to be in a comfort zone as far as being able to ask questions, or even questioning adults. But our kids learn from our observation. They learn from watching us. And I bring this up too, Dereck, and that was because I've gotten some great compliments about my son, about what an respectful kid he is, or I shouldn't say kid anymore, he's 18, but young man.
Yeah.
And I go back to my Jedi mind trick with him was, on the Fridays I would pick him up, and on the Sundays I would drop him off back at his mom's. I had in my car, um, way back when Success Magazine used to send CDs every month when you would get the magazine. So you would hear motivation, inspiration, you would hear, leadership, you would hear, you know, um, even live speeches on these CDs each and every month. And I would play them. Now, do I know if he was listening? I don't know. But I wanted him to be in a moment, and it's about anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour car ride, but I wanted positive messages for him versus listening to the radio. And there were times where we would listen to something and he would ask me about it, or I would ask him about it. So we're creating that open dialogue. And so, again, going back to having those facilities where the dads can be there with their kids working on homework, but at the same time showing our kids without really teaching them, if that makes sense, but just
Yeah.
being present with our kids is so important.
Yeah. And it's crazy because you know I've been a Uber driver, in the past, and when when you have a family, they get in, they get out the vehicle or whatever. The way the parents greet you is usually how the children greet you. If the parents get out and they say, "Oh, thank you so much for the ride," the kid will come behind them and say the exact same thing. Thank you so much for the ride. And that's what just made me think that, our kids see us and how we talk. And this is how they learning. Like, oh, well, my mom or my dad said this, so it must be okay to say. This is the person who I look to. to learn things from. They're saying it, so it must be okay to say. And so they're gonna copy us a lot. And sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're gonna take from other places. But even those, like, the few people who I meet that do stray from what their parents taught them, they'll tell you, my parent didn't, my mom or my dad, or whoever, they didn't teach me this. This is me, but they would be mad about this, or they would do this, or they would say that. They always tell the truth. When you give them those foundation, those values, they don't forget. Even when they go astray, they still remember. And so I definitely think that counts for something.
Well, it's learning how. Again, I go back to you're teaching your kids without having to verbalize it. You know, being that example.
Yeah,
And again, it's being present and showing respect. I am so grateful for my dad because he was in growing up. He was in sales, and observing. I mean, really observing my dad has taught me so many life lessons. Like number one, how to treat people. Number two, how to use people's names. You know, it's that I think it's the Geico commercial, Dereck, where the guy goes, "Well, the waiter doesn't need to know your name," and I
yeah.
always laugh about that because I'm that idiot when the waitress or waiter comes by and says, "Hi, my name's blah blah blah." I go, "Hi, blah blah blah. I'm Tommy. I'm going to be your guest," or I'm that idiot, but that's partially because I watched my dad treat people so well. The running joke, because my dad lives in Chicago, and in Chicago downtown they have Michigan Avenue, and Michigan Avenue is just it's a long, long avenue. But the joke was they called my dad the mayor of Michigan Avenue because he couldn't go 10, 15 feet without bumping into somebody he knew, be it through business or be it through friendship. And it's just a wonderful experience. And that's why I love the time I have with my son, being able to try and be the best example I can for him. So hopefully, you know, we're you and I are recording this in July. Well, almost a month from now, he's going to be on his way to college, and I'm hoping and praying, Dereck, that whatever I've been able to teach him these, approximately 18 years, he's going to take that information and he's going to be a great example. He's going to be a role model. He's going to be, not only representing his parents, but he's going to be representing himself. And as an athlete, he's going to be representing that school. So again, I'm hoping and a lot of praying that I've done, a good enough job to get him to where he can start to grow on his own.
One thing you made me just realize when you were talking about your dad and how he treated people. I've been thinking about it partially, but you just added on a new part. It's like you say you from Chicago, right?
Correct. Go Cubs.
Okay, so I'm born and raised in Philadelphia, and in the inner cities, we got this thing where we don't speak to people. We give everybody a mean mug that we see. We don't really have a nice inviting look to people. And what you were saying about how your dad was and now how you are, it makes me think that, well, we didn't have anybody to show us, what we could or what we should be doing. And that just goes to just even with everything, with being a father, with being a husband, we don't have anybody to show us how we're supposed to dialogue with our woman, with our women, with our spouse. We don't have nobody to show us how to have that patience with our spouse or with our children, and how to deal with things, how to de-escalate arguments, how to how to let things go, how to move on. We don't have nobody to show us those things. So it's like, where did we learn them? Just like what I was talking about earlier with the mannerisms. Where you learn your mannerisms from? You probably learn them from your friends, and that's why who our kids pick as friends is so important. Because I know for me and my little group of friends that I had growing up, it's like we kind of raised each other because none of us had like real father figures. So it's like if somebody wants to do something and somebody else think it's dumb, then that person probably won't do it because the person who another person who they respect said they wouldn't do it. When really it could be the wrong piece of advice, but we didn't know any better. We were raising ourselves, and that's why your friends are so important. Because just like with your son, if he makes a friend, he's probably going to be a positive influence for anybody he meets because he has positive attributes to give off to another friend. But if he were to meet somebody who were like, if he were to meet somebody who didn't have any confidence in themselves, and they're looking at him like, you my friend, I don't have no confidence in me, so I'm not gonna have no confidence in you to do it because I look at it like we on the same level. So if you have good friends who have confidence in themselves, then they tell you, well, yeah, go ahead, try it. You know, you can do it. Why wouldn't they say that? They think they could do it.
Well, I go back to one of the little mantras I have, and I heard this many years ago from uh, Pastor Joel Osteen, and I don't know if it was on Larry King or whatever, but anyway, and I know he's not the first person to make this quote, but that is, if you're the smartest person in your circle, you need a bigger circle. And if you're hanging around the wrong crowd, you're going to be part of the wrong crowd. So that's why it's important to make sure that, when you are making friends, that, you learn from them. And at the same time, like you were just saying, have the confidence to say to somebody, hey, I think what you're doing isn't right. Maybe you should be doing this instead.
Well, what I mean by that is like if I I'm telling my friend, hey, I want to be a journalist. Now, my friend, he don't know anything about being a journalist, and none of us have ever met a journalist before. So if he doesn't think that he could become a journalist, then he probably won't think that I could become a journalist
Right.
because we are eye level. We are basically on the same level. If he don't have confidence in himself, he probably won't have confidence in me. So that's what I mean. Like, try to make sure that your kids are, you know, not only picking good friends, but make sure they are positive role models to others too.
Yeah, and build people up. Don't build them down.
Exactly.
Tear them down. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's very important to confidence is a very important thing, and I'm 32 and I'm still working on building my confidence.
I'm I'm
So
I'm I'm in my 50s. 50s. Excuse me, coffee. And I'm still going through that as well. I mean, it but at the same time, if we can show confidence around our kids, even though we might be deep down faking it,
right,
that's okay.
yeah,
That's
a hundred
okay.
percent,
Yeah.
100%. I would do that. I would encourage that. As a matter of fact, you don't want to put your sadnesses on your children.
No, no, right. I mean, but again, that's where our kids need we dads as positive role models, that we are not, to someone go back to an earlier conversation we are having, not disparaging our former spouses, not setting, a negative precedent, you know, like you were also saying, take that high road. If my son came to me and said, "Oh, mom said you're this, this, and this," and I would be like, "Okay, hey, let's go. talk about this, or let's. I mean, I would definitely take your advice, Dereck, and I would just not necessarily change the subject. Maybe because my son's older, I would say, all right, how do you feel about that?
Yeah,
Or
let's talk
maybe,
about this.
yeah, exactly. Let's talk about it. But in your situation with a younger son, it makes every sense to just find a different shiny object for them and just move on.
Yeah, because my son is only 3, and
Right.
I think that they start to form their own opinion about it. Like they're excuse me,
Let's see.
excuse me. They're smart enough to form their own opinions about things. So if they love both of you, and one is talking bad about the other, and the other one is never talking bad about that one, then I think they're gonna start to form their own opinion about that. So you don't have to like. I don't think as fathers we have to try to compete with that. And I'm guilty of it. I was ready to fire back at my son's mom through my son until my partner, my spouse, who I listened to, gave me a good piece of advice. And that's just take the high road. And it's difficult. It's difficult to take the high road, especially when you want to see your kids and you got to go through family law. And sometimes I just be looking for a way, like, man, I just wish I could find a way to get back at them. But when you try to get back at people, sometimes you hurt yourself. So it's best to just be in your child's life and just create those great memories and just
Exactly.
let
Exactly.
things happen how they will.
There's something you mentioned. You mentioned the word, or used the word compete, and something that popped in my head as yesterday. Matter of fact, I was driving back. Um, I had spent uh, part of the day with my son, and I was driving back from uh, within the Denver city limits, and I started thinking more and more about how he's leaving, heading off to college, but it's how he's getting there. So my former wife and her husband have a camper, and my wife would she loves camping, Dereck. I'm not a camper. To me, roughing it means that the hotel doesn't have room service. Okay, so I am not a camping person. But again, I know this is what my wife loves to do, and we've taken the kids camping, and everybody's just had a great time. So my son is going from Colorado to Michigan for college, and what they're doing is they're taking their RV and hooking up my son's car, and then they're driving from Colorado. They're going to go to Wisconsin, visit family. But it's having competition that not only does my former spouse have toys that my wife would love to have, her former spouse has toys that, again, and it's really hard to take a step back and go, I wish we had that too. But at the same time, you know your financial limits, you know the point here is it at times I personally feel less than a man because we don't have those toys. And not only are you competing against your former spouse, now you're competing against, your wife's former husband. It's a non-win situation.
Yeah, yeah, it can be for sure. I mean, yeah, that's tough, man. I think that one thing is though that one thing is that you can have a whole bunch of stuff, but if you're not gonna be there for the people that you love, then it's useless. And
Yeah.
I think that For me right now, if I would much rather have somebody who didn't have much anything. Only thing he had was time. I'll take that over somebody who have a lot of material things, but don't really have time, don't have advice, don't have insight, don't have experiences. I take all that all that stuff is you know it's not important compared to somebody willing to give you their time.
I'm going to tell you, time is so precious. I was on a flight recently, and this young man sitting next to me, um, he was telling me that back in January, his father had passed away, and we were talking about, you know, time. And he said, all I want is one more conversation with my dad.
Mm.
All I want is that one conversation. And he's sitting there, and he's tearing up, and I'm sitting next to him, and I'm getting ready to bawl too. And you know, to somewhat start off our conversation, Dereck, it goes back to when you go to court, that's time that's being taken away from our kids. And that's time that could be used in a positive and a better way for our kids instead of having to spend time sitting in front of a lawyer, spending time sitting in front of a judge. That's time taken away, and that's currency. That time is currency.
Now look at that. Look at that young man that you talked to and the void that he feels in his heart. So take that and spread that to all the other kids who, either their father passed away or their father not there for whatever reason. And they feel sad, they feel anger, they feel confusion, they don't know what to feel. So look at it like this. If I come into that neighborhood full of young guys like him and I give all of them high paying jobs, is that going to make them feel better as people? Maybe, maybe not. Most likely not, because they still have a void. So when they're at work, they still have that void. They still have things they need to learn. They might go off crazy. They might take an argument to another level. They might, they don't know how to be responsible or come on time or whatever it is. You can't fill voids like I was talking about earlier with band-aids. You can't just put band-aid on the issue. You just can't fill voids with money and status and things like that. You need somebody, and it might even be a mentor. A mentor might be able to fill that void better than a good job can. And that's what I'm all about. I'm all about men being in the picture in the foster care system. We need more men in the social service system. You know, um, we just need our men, our fathers, to be more present. And that's what the fatherhood community is about. It's about men who, I don't know everything about family law, but what I do know, I share with the next man, and then he share with the next man. And that's how we help each other grow. We give each other the information to help each other grow.
Powerful stuff, Dereck. I want to say once again, Dereck, thank you so much for your time. Uh, Before I give you the last question, Dereck, please let the listeners how they can get a hold of you, how they can support you and your run uh, in there in Wichita, Kansas. Let the people know how they can get a hold of you, Dereck.
Well, you can get a hold of me. Pretty easy to get a hold of. You can go on my website and you can get a hold of me there. My email is hugadad@gmail.com, all one word, hugadad@gmail.com. Um, you can contact me on Facebook. Just type in Hugadad. You'll find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. Um, I post my phone number 267-266-1917. I'm very open and looking for open dialogue with anyone who's willing to talk about fatherhood and the issues that we're just trying to make the next generation a better generation, and keep it going like that. And I do believe that there's a lot of men who are like me who grew up without fathers. We don't know what it's like to be a father. I mean, we don't know what it's like to have a father, but we are fathers. And there's a lot of us that are we're I think that this is turning the tide, that fathers are being more involved in their kids' life more than the previous generation.
I
So
agree.
I look forward to you know just doing my little 2 cents to continue making that happen. Anybody want to volunteer? We definitely are looking for people who are willing to speak to our children, speak to even adults. We want to do job training, and we want to have events and things like that. So anyone feel like they can help with anything, just contact me and let me know, and we could collaborate on something.
City Councilman Dereck Reynolds. How's that sound? Doesn't that sound great?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
All right, Dereck. So your last question is, Dereck, if you could step into my shoes, what would you have asked that I did not ask you? If you could step into my shoes, what would you have asked that I did not ask you?
Um, Let me see. I would ask. Um, I don't know. You asked some pretty good. Oh, okay. I would ask me what's stopping me from having a positive relationship with my own father.
And what's the answer?
The answer to that is that um him and my mother, they were never in a relationship, but um he has always had ample unlimited opportunities to be in my life. Like, I mean, there was no barriers, there was nothing getting in the way. There was times where it was set up to where I was put in his face. Like, I'm coming to the house that he grew up in every day after school. I used to go there in fourth or fifth grade. For the most part, I would go there every single day, after school. And, you know, there was times in my life where I really felt like I needed him, that he didn't show up for me. He didn't give me the confidence that I needed. And, as I grew older, I tried to reach out to him to forge that relationship. And it never clicked. Now, I would ask my grandmother why my dad why he doesn't want to, be around me and talk to me or whatever. I asked her as a young child, and she told me that don't worry, because when you get older and he gets sick and you become older and you're grown and you're doing things, he's going to want to be around. And that's exactly what happened. He got sick, he had a stroke, and all of a sudden he wanted to rekindle our relationship, which I was down for, but he will not say, or he would not tell the truth about what was going on, because I still needed some kind of closure. So he would always deny it, like he was always fighting and always trying to be in my life, and always wanting to be there, but people were just holding him back. But I specifically remember when I was reaching out to him and he was turning me down. So it's hard for me to talk to him when he just won't be honest about it. He won't just say, "Yeah, I messed up, man, but let's make it better now." It's always, "No, I tried, but this person," and that just makes it hard to talk to.
So what is the next step then?
The next step is me just, I mean, I don't know, like I I want to call him and try to push him but then I don't want to. I still have a supreme amount of respect for him because he's my dad. So I don't want to become disrespectful, but I just want him to, you know, just be open and willing to talk to me about how he felt, so I can learn from that. Just tell me how you felt. Just tell me the truth. It's over with now. It's 20, 30 years ago, whatever. So there's nothing we could do to change it. But I just want to understand, and he won't allow me to understand. So I mean, it's just difficult right now. I wanted to do counseling with him, and me and my mother did counseling, and it turned out great. So that's what I want to do with him. It's just I haven't taken the steps to set it up yet, but I think that's what I want to try to do.
I'm hoping the best for you, Dereck. I hope you and your dad can build up that relationship because, as you already know, we need our dads. No matter how
Yeah.
old they are, we need our dads. And um,
What would you say to that though? Would you be able to talk to your father if he wouldn't? He just wouldn't allow you to come to terms, or he wouldn't give you the conversation that you needed.
I would not let it go. Um,
You would not what?
just I would not let it go. I would, yeah, I would be on the phone with my dad, um, and I would continue try to talk to him, and just it's like your example earlier about the two gentlemen battling, having an open conversation about religion. You know, keep having those conversations because it goes back to you will end up wanting that one more conversation with your dad.
Yeah. And people keep telling me that, and I've been like, no, I don't think I will, but I know I will. I know I will. I just haven't been able to take that step yet, just because I'm nervous about it. I'm scared of it. I'm scared to do it.
What's the worst case scenario?
Um, the worst case scenario is, I hit that wall as I've hit before, where I don't get any answers, or I just get just bluff. And I mean, I guess that's not the worst thing in the world, but it's what's been keeping me from, doing it.
When I used to coach hockey and I coached my son, and the end of the first period, he comes skating over to the bench, and he was pretty young, probably around 8 years old, and I could see he was crying. And I would say, "What's wrong? Are you hurt?" He goes, "No, I let in a goal." I'm like, "What?" Okay, we got to move on. We got two more periods to go, dude.
Yeah,
And I would say to him, has anybody died? What's the worst case? You let in a goal." And that's how I look at it too, Dereck, is what's the worst case scenario? And I I just go back to that gentleman, Sean, and how he was just sitting there on that plane, just asking for one more conversation with his dad. And I, I for you, I would just keep having those conversations, even even if like you were saying, even if your dad is, BSing you, keep having those conversations because you're creating memories for you and him, and you get to take that experience to be able to help other dads out that might be in a similar situation down the road. That would be me coaching you.
yeah, that's some good advice. And see what you said, what you told your son. That right there just shows that's like prime dad, classic dad advice to just relax, calm down. And that's what I tell my children all the time: relax, calm down. They get overly hyped. I just try to keep them calm. And when they get scared, or like my oldest son, he don't like water in his eyes when he in the bathtub. So I try to tell him to calm down and chill and relax. And that's what you were doing for your son to, move on. It's okay. You can get over it. Get control of your emotions. And that's just, I mean, like that's just classic. And I just always feel like that bothers me. Like, man, I wish I had that. And, that's a little bit of it too, harping on the past. That's a piece of it of why me and my dad don't really have that relationship because, I hear stuff like that and it's like, man, I wish, I needed that a couple times in my life. So, it's just things that I just need to get over because I think I will regret it, like you said, one more conversation.